For those in search of a compact Makita cordless rotary hammer and find the 36-volt versions DHR281 and even the DHR243 too large, they might want to take a look at the small Makita DHR171 or the Makita DHR182. And that's exactly what today's video is about, the compact Makita cordless rotary hammer. Let's see how this device performs and what it has to offer. I mean, externally, it already has some obvious features, but let's wait and see how the device performs. Therefore, I suggest we dive right into the video, but as usual, subscribe to this channel quickly, activate the bell, and never miss a new video in the future. You can find the current prices of all these devices in the video description below, and now let's get started after the intro. The powerful 36-volt Makita cordless rotary hammer, the DHR281, alongside its slightly smaller brother, the DHR243, and today in the test for those who prefer something more compact, the Makita DHR182. Let's see what this compact Makita cordless rotary hammer has to offer. Also worth mentioning, I previously introduced and compared these two devices, the 36 and 18-volt version, separately. You can find the videos up there on the top right on the info card. Definitely worth watching again. And not to forget, I've also extensively tested the smaller DHR171. You can find that video up there on the top right on the info card as well. So today's video is exclusively about the Makita DHR182. Externally, the device definitely has a lot of features to offer. We have an AVT system, a brushless motor XPT, and the AWS is also on board. To be honest, I'm very curious to see what else this small device has to offer. And that's why it's time to open the product box and see what's included in the package. In addition to the actual device, there is, of course, the user manual. Next, we have safety instructions, warranty conditions, and the usual leaflet as we know it from other devices with AWS features on board. Next is the plastic depth stop, and finally the actual DHR182. And that's it. There's nothing more inside, which is logical because it's the solo version. Therefore, the Z at the end means you have to separately obtain batteries and chargers accordingly. And here it is, the Makita cordless rotary hammer DHR182, and compared to these two devices, you quickly notice that it differs quite significantly in terms of design and size because the device is quite compact. Regarding the quality, there's really nothing much to say here because the cordless rotary hammer is, in typical Makita fashion, efficiently crafted. If we take a look at the edges and transitions, everything is neat, clean, and uniform. Even the rubber sleeve in the middle is very precise and of high quality, so there's definitely nothing to complain about here. Let's move on to important points like size, weight, and handling. As you can see, compared to these two devices, the DHR182 is, in terms of overall length, a bit shorter. I would say, let's see what the numbers say. That means we have a total length of about 270 millimeters and a height, in this case without the battery, of about 245 millimeters. Now, let's talk about the weight because this shouldn't be too high either. The solo version weighs only 2,100 grams, and of course, for a certain runtime, it's recommended to use a large battery, in this case 5 ampere hours. This brings us to a gross weight of 2,700 grams. And that sounds good. We have a relatively light cordless hammer drill, around 2,700 grams gross, with an anti-vibration system and still very compact. As mentioned earlier, at the bottom of the machine, there's a slot for the 18-volt battery. The battery itself is inserted from the front and locks securely and effortlessly as usual. And of course, very important, it's an 18-volt device, meaning we can only use our 18-volt LXT batteries, preferably with a high capacity, in this case 5 ampere hours. Moving directly above, the main handle of the DHR182. I must say, overall the handle feels very good. Additionally, as you can see here at the bottom, there's plenty of space, meaning the handle's generously sized and easy to grip, even for large hands. And of course, not to forget, the handle is extensively coated with rubber, making it non-slip. On the top, there's another hand rest, ensuring that we can guide and control the hammer drill a bit better. This is also completely rubberized all around, making it non-slip as well. What else is there to mention about this part of the machine? Of course, very important are the controls, such as speed regulation, as well as forward-reverse operation. The two controls are well positioned and adequately sized. When gripping the cordless hammer drill, I don't have to fumble around aimlessly, for example, to access the forward-reverse operation. Similarly, the speed regulation is also nicely sized. Even with gloves, it can definitely be operated effortlessly. Likewise, both the forward-reverse operation and speed regulation have a pleasant pressure point. However, for the latter, it's important to note, especially during deregulation, to press it right in the middle. If, for example, I want to press the switch at the bottom, it tends to get stuck. Pressing it at the bottom is practically not possible. The switch must be pressed right in the middle. On the other side, the compact cordless rotary hammer is powered by a brushless motor. This motor is hidden at the back and ensures a maximum speed of 1350 or a maximum of 5,000 impacts per minute, which is quite decent. To prevent the vibration from being directly transmitted to the user or the handle, this compact cordless rotary hammer even has a built-in anti-vibration technology, or AVT. And precisely for this, we see this small black rubber sleeve directly in front of the handle, which wraps around completely, serving as a seal for the AVT. Even in dry practice, the damping or the anti-vibration system works quite well. I'm curious to see how it performs in practical use. Let's recall these two cordless rotary hammer, the DHR281 with the anti-vibration system and the DHR243 without. There was already a significant difference in terms of vibration between these two devices. That's why I'm very curious to see how this little device with AVT performs. So let's move on to the actual combination unit, namely the gearbox and the percussion mechanism. Since it's obviously a cordless rotary hammer, it has multiple functions. Just like the other two devices, we find the mode or function selection dial on the left side. For this, on the top of the mode dial, we find this small turquoise lock. Press it once and we can easily switch to the other mode. Firstly, we have here, of course, the pure chisel or hammer function, next the hammer drilling, and lastly, the pure drilling function. As evident, the function selection is definitely easy to move, very smooth. No sticking or the like, which I sometimes notice with the DHR243, so very positive in this regard. And of course, not to forget the small point for aligning, for example, chisels. Right at the front, as expected, an SDS Plus chuck. Compared to these two models, the chuck is not as easy to change. This cordless rotary hammer is specified with a concrete drilling capacity of up to 18 millimeters in diameter, compared to the DHR171. This one is supposed to handle 17 millimeters, so here we have 1 millimeter more than the smaller version. I would say in practice, let's see if it can handle this 25 millimeter drill. What else is there to mention? As seen, currently oriented downwards, the second stabilizing handle, and this one is evidently usable in several positions, just like with the other two devices. Nothing special really. Turn it to the left to release, and then we can easily adjust the handle. Included in the package is a plastic depth stop. This is simply integrated here at the front of the handle. Now, one might think that's it for this little cordless rotary hammer, but that's not the case. Firstly, we find a built-in LED at the bottom of the tool, which is appropriately aligned with the drill. In terms of brightness, in my opinion, the dual LED is entirely sufficient and relatively well aligned with the drill. Furthermore, at the bottom of the tool on the other side, we find the mentioned AWS module, or rather, the slot, as currently there's no module included. The AWS, or Automatic Wireless System, ensures that if, for example, we have a vacuum cleaner or similar connected, it only starts when we activate the hammer drill and automatically deactivates to reduce noise and the like accordingly. In my opinion, this is not really necessary. The DHR182 has the significant advantage that, compared to the smaller DHR171, it can directly mount a suitable extraction, namely the DX05. For this purpose, we see on the underside this small slot where the extraction is attached. As, for example, with the DHR243, The DX05 module is specifically designed for this cordless rotary hammer, but notably smaller. I'll link this module in the video description below, and of course, if there's interest, I can gladly test this module for you again. In this scene, it's ideal for all applications where dust exposure should be kept as low as possible. Simply attach the extraction and the dust is automatically sucked up. Unfortunately, I don't have this privilege on the table. Therefore, we have to make do with just the cordless rotary hammer for now. So I would say let's switch to the test to see how well this little cordless rotary hammer performs. Lean back and let's get started with the test. And with that, let's move on to the practical test. Let's see what the small 18-volt cordless hammer drill from Makita, the DHR182, has to offer. As you can see, at the bottom, of course, is the large 18-volt battery, which is fully charged. This means we have the maximum power and endurance on our side. Furthermore, here are the drills and chisels used, starting with the small drill bits at 15 millimeters up to the largest at 30 millimeters. The material used, here I have an 80 millimeter deep board as test material. I would say let's start the test. Let's begin with the small 15 millimeter drill bit in the 80 millimeter deep board. And that looks good. The first hole is already drilled. The second one at 15 millimeters, no problem. So let's continue with the next size, 18 millimeters. And that looks good as well. The first hole is already drilled, of course, in time-lapse, so the second hole right after also has no problems. It took a bit of time, but the hole is drilled. Moving on to the next size, 20 millimeters. I'm curious to see how the cordless hammer drill performs now. And that looks pretty good too, very quickly, no problems. The hole is drilled, not bad. Let's continue with the next size, 25 millimeters. Now it gets interesting because this hammer drill is specified for concrete up to a maximum of 18 millimeters. So I'm very curious to see how it handles the 25 millimeter drill bit. As we just saw, 20 millimeters were essentially no problem. But as evident, 25 millimeters, also in time-lapse, it struggles quite a bit, and the hole is also drilled. It took quite some time, so I would say let's stop there. So 25 millimeters are still possible, but it's really the limit. I didn't test 30 millimeters here, but as mentioned, 20 millimeters are possible. In total, I drilled 6 holes in the concrete, just to show briefly the battery level. The cordless hammer drill managed to do these 6 holes with 2 bars of battery, which is really not bad. So let's continue with the pointed chisel and now the endurance test or the extreme test. Let's see how long the device really lasts. So here's the quick switch from the drill to the pointed chisel, and of course, very important, change the mode to the chisel-only mode. Let's see how long the cordless hammer drill holds up here. As I mentioned earlier, 2 bars were still remaining, and of course, bottom right for you, the stopwatch is displayed. Yeah, and that looks good. Here too, of course, time-lapse. As evident with its modest 1.7 joules, it's struggling quite a bit here. It's only chipping away small bits of concrete, so the 1.7 joules are a bit modest for this activity. I would say in this case, you should definitely opt for a slightly larger device with a higher or stronger single impact force. And as evident, the stopwatch shows 3 minutes, but the cordless hammer drill has just deactivated itself, meaning the battery is empty. As mentioned earlier, 2 bars were still available. Now the battery is completely drained after 6 holes and 3 minutes of pure chiseling. And with that, I would say let's move on to the conclusion. All in all, the little hammer from Makita, the DHR182, has, in my opinion, performed quite well. Firstly, it has to be said that the device is really nice and small, compact, and not heavy, especially compared to the other 18-volt device, for example, the DHR243. It's much more comfortable to work with this device over a longer period. Regarding performance, I have to say the device has convinced me as well, at least for drills up to 20 millimeters in concrete. 25 millimeters are also possible, but you definitely need more time. The device is specified for a maximum of 18 millimeters, so that's quite decent as well. Furthermore, as you could also see in the video, the individual impact force of 1.7 joules is definitely not the greatest, especially when compared to other Makita cordless devices. For those who regularly want to break down materials, whether a pointed or flat chisel, they should definitely opt for a different device. However, for occasional or short tasks, the chiseling function should be sufficient here as well. And finally, the Makita DHR182, in addition to the AWS feature that allows wireless activation of the vacuum cleaner, has an anti-vibration system which, in my opinion, has also performed very well and is definitely beneficial. So, for those who work a lot indoors, don't want to carry around a large device, and of course want to perform tasks as dust-free as possible, the DHR182 is definitely recommended. Now it's your turn. What do you think of this little Makita cordless tool? Feel free to share your opinion or maybe even your experience in the comments below. And with that, I would say that's it for this short video. If you enjoyed it, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. And of course, if you haven't already, definitely subscribe to the channel for free and activate the bell to not miss any new videos in the future. You can find the current prices below in the video description. Thank you very much for your support. Until then, goodbye.